Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Pisces taking place on September 10th, 2022 at 5:55 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, this is the Lightworker energy update. And I am super pumped to be able to share this with you. It's going to be an interesting full moon. This full moon is part of a larger series of full moons that really talk about getting in touch with who we really are, what we really think, what we really want, and how we're really living. It's a season of coming into congruence. It's a season of coming into integrity. It's a season of coming home to self in some ways that we may not have been aware we had been separated from ourselves or living double lives or not clear or sending double signals out to the universe and then getting duality back in the world of our experience. But this full moon is going to start to highlight as part of a series of new and full moons that will highlight and bring these messages home for us. So I'm excited about this season personally. I'm also equally frustrated by this season personally because I really love clarity and I love congruity or congruence, I should say, within myself, within other people. However, I also understand that, the opposite energy is a necessary energy here on earth at this time for many reasons. Being able to explore duality and polarities allows us to better understand who we are. And this full moon is part of a season that allows us to see two sides of the same coin, the other side of the mirror, if you will, and shows us the truth of things that are going on that we may not have fully grasped or fully understood until we got the opportunity to be still or be in unknowingness so that we could get into knowingness. So it's a very paradoxical season and period of time that we're going to experience as we move through the end of the year, starting off with this Mercury retrograde and the Mars retrograde, or this Mercury retrograde that kicks off the Mars retrograde that I spoke about at the Virgo full moon about 10, 11 days ago. And that will conclude with the next Mercury retrograde that will conclude the Mars retrograde season come December, January period of time. So, um, like I said, the energy is going to have things feel so up in the air for a little bit while we get deeper about what's true for us, what's real for us, and what we need in this so that we can move into a season of greater congruence coming up in just a little bit. So, just if you're like me and you're a person of clarity, this is kind of a grin and bear it period of time, or grit your teeth and get through it period of time, while things bubble to the surface that may not have been at the surface before that allow us to get into clarity. But between now and then, there's just, I don't like to say the word confusion because I don't think that's what it is. I think the better word for it is exploration. Is kind of what we're moving through right now, is a season of exploration as we come to understand what could be and differentiate that from what has been. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All right. But before I get fully into this, for those of you who in the Lightworker Collective are in fact divine counterparts, I wanted to make sure that you knew that just for this weekend, as I'm airing this full moon information, I have made it available for you to sign up for Q&A with Kay one last time before we close out this year. This particular Q&A with Kay is the recording only, content only versions of 2022 this year, which was the Union with Self 4-session Q&A with Kay program. And as a bonus, I'm throwing in 2021, the Divine Mirror sessions, all 5 of those, to assist you with the exploration of this period of time. There's a total of 9 sessions of coaching and guided meditations for the Twin Soul Collective. These 2 years were specifically very Twin Soul focused because we're coming in or now in the middle of this union window period of time that stretched from 2021 beginning to end of 2022. So the normal price point for Q&A with Kay is $144, which makes getting both of these a value of $288. However, I have made them available for $111 if you sign up during this period of time only, and it won't be back or available to access again this year. And $111 is cheaper than a single 30-minute session with me, or is the same price almost as a single 30-minute session with me. But instead of just 30 minutes, what you get is these 9 sessions that, go up to 97 minutes, 108 minutes, 104 minutes. You get a lot of time with me with a lot of information that's going to help you get into clarity about navigating this union window energy. And what I find that people are getting most value out of at this time, including my 2022 participants, is the information from 2021, the divine mirrors energy. And the divine mirror patternings, we look at the direct mirror, the opposite mirror, the mirror of the void, the mirror of separation in session 1, that's 43 minutes. And in session 2, we look at the parental mirror, the mirror of light and shadow, and the mirror of divine perfection. If you've been struggling in any of your connections, business partnerships, coworkers, friendships, romantic relationships, parent-child relationships, relationships with your siblings, neighbor relationships, any of these connections are going to have some level of divine mirror pattern for you as a light worker, as a twin soul during this last 4 months of 2022. If you're not clear about why your boss is acting that way, why your friends are acting these ways, or if you're feeling like you're outgrowing your relationships, but it's like you're shedding but your life hasn't caught up with who you're becoming yet, these mirror sessions are really going to support and facilitate what's happening for you at a soul level in terms of your evolution and growth, where you're headed, and why it's unfolding the way it is right now in this pushy pulley energy of 2022 that is demanding change from all of us. Furthermore, if you are a divine counterpart, doesn't matter what label you apply to your connection, you're going to want to listen to the information from this year, completing the purification process, opening to love again, whether you are coming into union with a counterpart or coming into union with yourself or soul mission. This session really allows you to understand, is love unfolding for me? How is it unfolding for me? And how can I not block it as it's coming through? And the reframing separation and reframing union sessions, these 2 sessions are really about getting into clarity about understanding that sometimes union and separation are divine mirrors of the same energy for you, and getting you into a place of allowing the separation so that you can allow the union. Where we resist separation, we're also resisting union. And so we get it's that concepts are a little heady, but they also take you more deeply into the space of allowing love to flow in the way that it's flowing. Same with coming into union session. We'll talk about balancing the triggers there. So there's also 3 meditation sessions in here: spiritual union, sexual union, and the reframing separation sessions all have meditations, guided meditations that you can use for rebalancing the energy in the connection, whether you're solo or with a counterpart. So I highly recommend you get your hands on this recording only session before we end this weekend, because if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you've missed it. Get these now so that you can have these available to listen to as we close the year, so that you're not acting in extreme energy as we move through this very confusing, unfortunately, period of time between now and December. These sessions will allow you to get into clarity about what's happening, why it's happening, and how to use this energy and spiritual mastery so that instead of what many people are going, you're going to start to see this play out, people acting in extremes and then changing their mind very rapidly as we cycle through this energy of the next 4 months. These sessions will allow you to avoid that and just stay in presence with what's happening. And this is critically important because we have the divine counterparts coming into union in January of 2023. And it's bringing forward a very triggering energy for all of us. But this triggering energy is meant for our growth. And if you can leverage this for growth, then you'll be right on track. So the link to get Q&A with Kay recording only sessions is going to be below this video. Like I said, I am gifting you 2021. 2022 is available instead of for 144, it's available for 111, but it is this weekend only. So please get your hands on this now. Link is below this video. Let's get into this Pisces full moon energy. It's a very interesting full moon because it talks a lot about our relationships. This full moon is taking place right here, the 17th degree of Pisces. And what we have sitting with the moon is a conjunction to Juno in Pisces, Nessus in Pisces. We've got a conjunction to Neptune here as well. All of these energies, especially with the star of the show sitting so close, being Juno. Juno is our partnership asteroid, and she talks about our collaborative partners, business partnerships, romantic partners, and full moons portend completions of cycles of energies of patterns. So we're going to get into more of what this means in a minute. But we also have this full moon in a square to Mars. Mars talks about our ambition and where we want to go. Full moon square Mars and Juno square Mars in Gemini, no less, the sign of duality, 2. We've also got a trine to the South Node. South Node talks about releasing and letting go. We've got a sextile to Uranus. Uranus here in the North Node talks about where we're headed, and Uranus talking about divine change. And we've got a trine to Lilith in Cancer. Lilith really wants to do things in Cancer and the way that she feels like doing things. Emotionally, she wants to be congruent with her heart space in Cancer. And so you put all of this together, and what we have going on is some level of completion in relationship transformation, growth, change, and the structure of our relationships in the third dimension. That's that Uranus and Taurus change in the third dimension, Earth sign Taurus. We also have the completion of some level of emotional or energetic cycle or pattern in our relationships, because Pisces represents emotions, but specifically tied to spirit. It's the spiritual patterning, the emotional patterning of what's unfolding in the way we're utilizing our relationship energy at this time. There's something that's coming to an end in the way we have operated in our connections. Emotionally and spiritually, we may be complete with something going on in relationships or with a relationship itself. The question may be, how do we execute the change? Maybe we have clarity now that the way that may need revisitation as we get into the peak of the Mars retrograde in December. So, for example, you could be having the experience of recognizing, you're done with a job or a career path, not really sure which one, or a business partnership, right? And in recognizing this, especially if you have the Pisces midheaven, and recognizing you're complete about this, what may be in confusion at this point in time is, okay, you maybe have two minds, Mars retrograde in Gemini. What's the correct path forward from here? How do I complete this partnership? How do I get the next thing off the ground? How do I fill in the blank to move out of this chapter and into the next chapter. And these next 4 months will be about answering that kind of question, right? For some of you, this will play out in work, business. Some of you, this is going to play out romantically. For many of us, it'll play out in both arenas, right? Because there tends to be a lot of linkage between the two for many people. But these next 4 months will be about giving us the answer to the question how, because we've gotten, as Saturn and Uranus have been squaring last year and this year, the answer to the question what. What do we need to do? Check, got it. I know where I need to go. But how do I get there? That's the question mark that the tail end of 2022 is going to allow us to begin to answer. So, as I mentioned in the Virgo new moon update 2 weeks ago, you're going to want to pay attention to two things, both in your own internal dialogue and in the dialogue around you. Now, in the dialogue around you, it's going to be easier to notice what's being said, what's not being said. What are people doing? What are they not doing? There's some things that will become very conspicuous in their omission in terms of the way people are choosing to collaborate and connect with you. There's also going to be things that are maybe you need that they aren't saying that you may have to bring to the table as a negotiation point. For this to move forward for me, this is what I'd really need. For me to be able to stay in this is what I'd really need. And so that's the second thing you want to pay attention to is your own needs. And this is where it can be hard for some to self-reflect, not always, but to really go in and have that look. Okay, what's here that I need and what's not here that I need? And how do I create the circumstance with others so that it's working for me? For many, the problem we're going to run into is throwing the baby out with the bathwater and then regretting it later in many circumstances, or trying to live at one of the extremes. Another way to put throwing the baby out with the bathwater, living at the extreme of self-exclusion or other exclusion, trying to just, break up and run away, or trying to just continue a pattern of self-sacrifice and self-erasure, right? Going to one extreme or the other rather than being in the extreme of let's co-create together. Not the extreme of, but the place of let's co-create together. As I mentioned at the Virgo new moon update, there is some haste in the air to move forward on something and to just get on with change and transformation. This Uranus in Earth sign Taurus wants us to reconfigure our third dimension as it conjuncts with the North Node, and it's square to Saturn. Saturn has been squaring the nodal axis here at that 90-degree angle. And the thing that's important to remember about Saturn is that, in traditional astrology, you will hear astrologers talk about Saturn being the harsh teacher. You'll hear them say Saturn is the disciplinarian. You'll hear them say Saturn is the separator. But that's only when you understand Saturn's mythology from the lens of, frankly, patriarchy, like just the male gaze. In the story of Saturn, yes, Saturn did create some punishment for Uranus. He did create separation of Uranus from Gaia. He did create some disciplinary action for Uranus and put some boundaries in there, but you have to look at the story in totality to understand what the purpose of this was. The purpose of this was because Uranus was hurting Gaia, and Gaia needed some protection because Uranus was asking or demanding Gaia to live outside of her integrity, outside of what she was designed to do. And so when we include the feminine perspective here, what we have is Saturn providing a restoration of wholeness, a restoration of integrity, boundaries, so that we can be complete and no longer be compromised in the way we're interacting with others. And so boundaries are a really beautiful thing because they're what allows the heart to be open and flow. They're what allows us to be fully connected and fully able to be ourselves at the same time, not, completely giving up of ourselves so that we can be with other people, no self erasure of either party. Okay. And so with Saturn squaring the nodes all of this year, there has been some level of question mark around, in order for our third dimensional circumstances to transform, which Uranus and Taurus is demanding of us. Saturn is saying some of our boundaries have to transform first. Some of the ways we hold relationship with ourselves and to other people needs to evolve. Saturn is in the sign of evolution. That's Aquarius. We need to move forward, quantum leap forward in the way we hold these boundaries so that we are able to be a better and higher expression of who our soul really is, a more complete expression, right? And so boundaries around whatever change or new direction we're trying to make, how we include more of ourselves, be more of ourselves, more authentic expression of ourselves, leaving no parts out, no parts behind. This Saturn squaring the nodal axis all year has brought us into a choice point. Will we or won't we? Will I or won't I? And the haste energy has to do with the fact that Saturn and Uranus have been squaring and creating this vibrational subconscious impact of you need to change, and you need to change this now since last year. We're now moving into about the fourth precise square. So the writing has been on the wall about what needs to shift. And it's only amplifying in the intensity of, yeah, let's change now. With Mercury being in opposition to Jupiter, there's plenty of big ideas being thrown around right now. There's a lot of largesse in our thinking. We can charge ahead, go forward, a lot of internal optimism that may have a bit of a myopia to it, and blocking out all other perspectives and point of view. We've also got Mars and sextile to Jupiter, and these two together can create a little bit of haste and like Jupiter just expanding anything it touches. So Jupiter expanding our big ideas and then expanding our ambition. There's a bit of a biting off more than we can chew vibe to this. And then this Mars is also trying to Mercury. So the three of these are in a conversation with one another. And with Mars and Mercury having the conversation both in air signs, it's like we're tripping over our feet. Our mind is moving so quickly into how we can very quickly just get to a more comfortable place, because the place we're in may be so uncomfortable. So again, there could be this vibe, a bit of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, moving a little too quick for our own good, biting off more than we can chew in our attempt to just get on with things and feel better, to move forward in a way that feels more congruent. There's a lot of big ideas and a lot of momentum right now that may need a bit of reevaluation in the weeks to come. So, my counsel and advocacy for all of us as we're looking at this energy is to take change slow at this time. Give yourself and give others plenty of space to consider and reconsider. Try not to get too hung up on words or actions that are taken in haste at this time, that are impetuous or impulsive at this time, because they may be contradicted later once Mercury goes direct or Mercury goes into the final retrograde of the year in December, which will coincide with the completion of the Mars retrograde. Or once Mars retrograde goes direct, said actions and words may be taken back or may contradict them each other, right? Especially if you have been the type of person or dealing with the type of people who have been back and forth on stuff. Well, I want this. Well, I don't want that. Well, I'm moving this way. Well, no. And if you've been struggling with people who do not thrive in clarity in your life, right? Their actions and their words constantly contradict one another. Those chickens may come home to roost at this period of time, where they'll start to recognize their own self contradiction. If this is you, you may even recognize, God, yeah, my words and my actions do not line up. And I now understand why my life is a direct reflection of half of this, half of that, and none of everything, right? That this Pisces full moon, Pisces is kind of the void, it's the mirror in certain ways, it's the looking glass kind of energy. This Pisces full moon may be illuminating to us where we have been half in, half out on a lot of things. And in that mirror, be kind of calling us up short and saying, I'm going to need you to be all the way in or all the way out, because straddling the line is not working for you. And pick an area of life. It could be on your health, right? I need you to get all the way healthy, or I'm going to need you to stop playing like you're doing something, but then you're just injuring yourself with dieting and binging. It could be about work, right? You're straddled between two career paths and not making a clear decision about either one. And so you're just stuck and on a hamster wheel. It could be about two people where, you're like, okay, do I love this one or this one? Or I love them both. Or I love this one, but I'm attached to that one. And thinking that you're making moves to bring things into alignment. And from this full moon to the end of the year, a light bulb will go off. Wow, I've really just been trying to hold on to everything because I'm afraid of losing everything. And this light bulb may facilitate real growth, real change, real congruence with self so that your life can actually move forward. Okay. Like I said, give yourself and other people plenty of space to consider, reconsider, and consider again. It's not about overthinking as much as it is really taking a good examined look at the truth of where we're at and how we feel about things. Okay. Because this Mars Mercury retrograde combo, and there's two Mercury retrogrades, not just one. There's this one, and then there's the one at the tail end of the Mars retrograde. So these Mercury retrogrades begin and end the Mars retrograde period. And remember, Mars governs our ambition, but it's in the sign of duality right now. And Mercury retrograde governs our mind. And it starts, first retrograde is in the sign of relationships. Second retrograde is going to be over here in Capricorn, the sign of more of the structure of our lives and what we're committed to. And so there's this kind of like two horses pulling the carriage in two opposite directions kind of energy, and needing to kind of figure out, okay, how do I get them moving in the same direction? And because of the way these Mercury retrogrades are going with this Mars retrograde, the combination of these three in the next 4 months is set to really bring to the surface information we could not have known before. For some people, the learning process is an experiential process, right? Some of us can calculate, we can kind of see, we don't actually need to experience things to know. I don't need to put my hand on the hot stove to know exactly what's going to happen. Some of us can witness, some of us can future pace and visualize, but some of us are very experiential learners. And so we need to actually try it to know for sure if it's going to work. And this is why try before you buy programs are wonderful, right? You can try clothes on in the store. It's like, oh, this fits, this doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the way I thought it would fit when I saw it in the magazine, right? Or online. This is a period of time where we're going to get more information via experience with Mars and Gemini. And as this information comes to the surface that we could not have known before, we're going to be able to understand things with new information. And we may think and or feel differently about the paths that we have decided to take at this time, and then change our mind. And so this is a period that's best set up for reflection, review, exploration. It's a let's take a look at the first steps and see how things go kind of energy. Let's maybe try the first step and see how things feel. And then let's reevaluate when it comes to major decisions taken at this time. Okay. Let me move this out of the way. Clear that. For decisions that have been delayed, so let's just say, you knew last year something needed to happen with this Uranus conjunct Saturn thing, right? Or sorry, square Saturn thing. And so the pressure's been mounting, 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 and you've done nothing, done nothing, done nothing, looking at you fixed signs. This is a time when you may feel the urgency to make things happen and move things along, especially when it comes to the completion of a relationship, partnership pattern, or the end of a relationship or partnership itself, business or romantic. Especially because, like I said, partnership asteroid is the star of this particular full moon show. The full moons represent completions. So, just the only thing that I'll say about that is to know that there may be a bit of back and forth before a full completion as we get closer to the full moon in Virgo in March of 2023. Yes, I said March of 2023, full moon in Virgo. That period of time was indicated to me as I was kind of researching this, like, okay, when will the back and forth stop? And when when the energy seemed to settle with clarity on one side or the other, for people who kind of just struggle with decision making, looking at you, mutable signs, there can be a bit of back and forth. And it can really be all of us. Even the cardinal signs can really struggle at times with what the other two signs bring, which is like committing to an outcome and then following it through. So there can be a bit of back and forth for all in this energy that lasts all the way through March. And so this full moon in particular, clarity can be challenging because this Mercury is now fully retrograde. We are in the Mercury retrograde period once by the time this full moon in Pisces is taking place. Mercury is fully retrograde. Mercury is our clarity maker. And so when it turns retrograde or in apparent motion backwards in the sky, what we thought when it was in forward motion could go in reverse and backward motion, right? The way we thought things were can turn on itself. And because this Mercury retrograde opposes Jupiter, which is also retrograde, which is our optimism and our hope and our faith, and Chiron, which is our wounding and the places where we feel a little tender, will also conjunct the shaman's asteroid, which is those lessons that we need to learn so that we can step into our leadership here on Earth. I'm already exasperated just describing this. We'll continue to discuss these things as we move through this Mercury retrograde with the other lunations. But the reality is that as this is going to be a developing and evolving process of where some of our own faulty thinking has created the experiences and circumstances we're working so hard to change right now. And so, the trick with this energy for those of you who can very easily slip into a patterning of it's all my fault, taking all the blame, I'm so awful, awfulization and catastrophization of the self that erodes the self worth and self value and self esteem. The trick with this is to just before you go into catastrophization and awfulization of the self, stop yourself at just recognizing the reality is our experiences are a direct reflection of our thoughts. And if we don't like what we're experiencing, all we need to do is be able to change our thoughts. Easier said than done. But if we can, with this Mercury retrograde, just start the process of getting a handle on what limiting beliefs and thinking facilitated the experiences that we're having that we don't like right now, then we can, if we can at least name them, we can get to the process of, okay, so what we can start the process of solution finding. What would I need to think instead? What do people who are having the opposite experience, the experience I want to have, what do they think about themselves, right? we can begin the process of healing some of the limited thinking that got us to where we are right now. And so, because this is a Mercury retrograde, it's going to be a 6-week period of time. There's going to be evolving revelation about how our own thought patterns may have created the circumstance we're working so hard to change, right? And so I want to just take a moment at this time to have a look at something from the world of psychology called cognitive distortions. I'm going to link this under the video for you guys. I reviewed this in Q&A with Kay 2022 this year with folks, because it was just, my guides told me at the beginning of the year, this is going to be a year where there are some real challenging, we're going to have to really confront our cognitive distortions as we move into this year. And so, in confronting those, I just want to introduce you to them. If you've never heard of the word cognitive distortion, like I said, this link will be below the video, but they're perceptions of what's going on, interpretations of our reality, if you will, that aren't constructive. They're not helpful. They are habituated patterns of thinking and beliefs that are false, inaccurate, and often exaggerated. Jupiter opposite Mercury can create exaggerations. And with Chiron involved, those exaggerations are based on our own wounding. And then they can manifest themselves as negative emotions or feelings and thereby increase anxiety and depression, which can then loop on itself and reinforce the false, inaccurate, and exaggerated thought. Okay. So cognitive distortions, until we catch them, unfortunately have the problem of reinforcing themselves. And so this article that I'll link from something called mindmypeelings.com, I don't know what that even means, starts with a situation that leads to thoughts and internal dialogue, which leads to emotional feelings. And if this is like mind blowing to you, this particular conversation comes out of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's something I strongly recommend if this is something you're like, wow, this is really blowing my mind. So we have polarized thinking that things are all or nothing, black and white. This can certainly happen during this particular Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde. Mental filtering. This is the experience of when you have negative mental filtering, you filter out everything positive, either about persons, your job, or yourself, right? Disqualifying the positive is like you can see the positive things that are happening, but you refuse to accept them. The person is changing and growing, you're changing and growing, but you write them or yourself off completely, right? Overgeneralization and jumping to conclusions, right? This overgeneralization is when you take one single bad event and then you transpose the way that went on everything else, and you want to make a snap decision based on the one thing. This can totally happen during this time of Mercury and Mars retrograde. Jumping to conclusions, there's multiple ways this is happening. Mind reading, fortune telling, I'll let you guys read these on your own. There's catastrophizing that needs no explanation. Then there's personalization, which can totally happen in this energy because Chiron is such a feature during this Mars retrograde and the Mercury retrograde. Personalization, cognitive distortion is when you take a look at everything people are doing and you wonder what you did to cause it. And so it's creating this self-blame when the reality is, for many of us, we're just bumper cars out here trying to figure ourselves out best we can and bumping into people as we're doing it. Blaming is almost the opposite. It's just instead of blaming the other person or blaming yourself, you're blaming the other person. Your life would be so much better if other people weren't in it, didn't exist, wouldn't do X. We've got labeling, we've got always being right, we've got should statements, emotional reasoning, control fallacies. The list goes on to number 15. I'll link this below, let you have a look at it as you're ready. But if you can start to pay attention to where these cognitive distortions are running your experiences as this Mercury opposes Mercury retrograde, Chiron, and Jupiter during this period of time, and has a conversation with this Mars retrograde, you're going to find you're much better positioned to make smart decisions because you're not getting caught up in irrational beliefs or things that aren't based in reality, that are instead you're using these cognitive distortions to try to protect you from pain, but they only end up causing more pain because we're not actually connected to the truth of what's happening. Okay. Like I said, this comes to us, cognitive distortions, I think, from the world of cognitive behavioral therapy. I will also make a note here to link below this video a list of therapists that I have been collecting that are familiar with the world of light work and twin flame speak, etc. Because sometimes we can't see these things or hear these things and in ourselves, but when somebody's listening to us, they can mirror it back in a way that then allows us more access to our choices. Okay. And so many of these will be revealed to us, our cognitive distortions, between now and the next Mercury retrograde in December, and the circumstances that will shift and give us new choices with the eclipses in November. So there are going to be some changes in November. It's like the end of the year was like, we're not really going to catch a break. Got some eclipses coming, circumstances externally will shift, new information will enter the scene. It's going to be best if we can greet it soundly, groundedly, and rationally, and really check our own perceptions of reality as we're doing so. Okay. It's this sense that all of the info we need in order to be able to know what we're doing next hasn't fully been revealed yet, especially because the eclipses haven't unfolded yet. So our thinkings about things can't be precise yet. Oh my gosh, I'm exasperated. We also have this Lilith sextile Uranus here. Uranus conjunct the North Node. And so Lilith here in Cancer, we have this deep urge to move our lives in a direction of greater emotional congruence. I feel like this, so therefore I want my life to look like that. This deep desire to live our emotional truth. The question is just, what exactly is that truth? Do I know what that truth is? And is what I'm thinking truth more so just based on hurt feelings or fear as opposed to reality? That's the question that we're going to be teasing out. And there's motivation and there's passion here too, with Mars here and Venus in a square to one another. So much fun. There's like this kind of like revving the engine a little bit, even though the car is still in park, but there's this mutable square that can make it so there's passion, but no real purpose. There's a charge to move forward without a clearly defined direction, unfortunately. There's like a foot in the past, a foot in the future. Half the time we're looking at the past, half the time we're looking at the future. It's just a mess. Other than my favorite energy. But it's necessary. This messy period of time, and I use messy in air quotes, is a necessary closet clean out in order to really make the kind of space we need in the closet. What we have to do is we have to get rid of the clothes we haven't been wearing and be honest with ourselves. Am I just afraid to get rid of this because it's got sentimental value attached to the past in some way, a past that's no longer present? Or am I actually going to use this in the future I'm trying to create for myself, where there can be new memories that I create if I just would make some space for them by letting go of the hand of the past? In this kind of energy, it's really easy to believe we're clear right now, make decisions and or say things that we will need to retract and take back in the next 3 to 5 months, if not sooner, as in the next 3 to 5 weeks, lest we say it and then to let our pride dictate that we would rather live in regret than admit that we changed our mind, which is it's an awful feeling. So, where you can ask for time to consider, review, reserve judgment, request a second opinion, or get a secondary review of the facts or of the discovery information, or just keep the conversation open in case you or the people you're dealing with have additional thoughts as you digest what's been shared so far. That will be far more constructive, like I said, than changing your mind 10 times or living with regret and saying nothing but lacking the courage or the heart later when we realize that we have new information and have changed our mind. Okay. This new moon has a very special kind of ruminating energy to it as well, not new moon, but full moon. Specifically because Nessus is so close to the mix. Nessus is an energy of obsession and kind of relentlessly chasing after something. And this, because Juno sits so close to Nessus and then the moon, this only further highlights, um, a review of some of our soul ties in Pisces, our spiritual tethers, our soul contracts with people of import to us. And this is entering into new cycles, new soul contracts, new soul connections with the sextile to Uranus at this time as well. So there's new coming in, there's old exiting at this time. And because it's a sextiling energy, there will be some level of effort, of choice, of consequence and cost to this. This isn't unfolding fully on its own without our participation. It's happening with our full recognition that, yeah, there's something I'm gonna have to let go of. And it's likely already going on its own with Juno sextile the North Node in order for my life to even be set up to get to the next thing in the world of relationship. And again, for many, this is likely to be in the world of partnerships, business, romantic, project collaborators, since Juno really is the star of the show here. But there's this kind of ambiguity with people we're connected to is only further highlighted with Miss Venus here in Virgo, opposite Juno here in Pisces, T square energy from mutable sign Gemini, Mars. And it's messy. This is messy energy. So Mars in Gemini has dual motivations. It wants to go in two different directions at the same time. It wants to explore. It doesn't want to commit or charge ahead. It wants to try this and try that. Let me have a sample of the chicken dish and a sample of the vegetarian dish to see which one suits me. All right. However, Venus is what we are attracted to. Juno's what we can commit to. And so, for those of you dealing with individuals, like people, Venus in shadow is this kind of what we're attached to kind of energy, because she can represent kind of gluey, sucky, latching on kind of energy in shadow. In the light, Venus is what we're attracted to. Like, there's charge and chemical attraction here, but I'm not going to glob onto it in the light. But this is a diametrically opposed energy here to what we either are committed to or can actually commit to. That's Juno. And or what we're kind of yoked to, meaning, I've made this commitment when I was 16, but now I'm a 47-year-old person. And because I made that commitment when I was 16, I now have to follow it through to my dying breath. I can't renegotiate it in any way. right? That's kind of being yoked up. It's like, okay, actually, you are a free human being, and you are allowed to change your mind and renegotiate with life, right? But Juno and Shadow will have us yoked to things that we've outgrown. And so, because there is this T square from Mars, which is our motivation and ambition to the two, immutable energies, the mutable seasons are the seasons of transition. So, in a mutable season like fall, we're going to get some of the weather from total fall, and then some of the weather from total summer. And then we'll go back to fall and back to summer before we fully anchor in the fall season, right? This is the way mutable energy works. It goes back and forth before it lands fully somewhere else. And this T square with Mars, our ambition, wanting to go in two directions, and then Venus over here, what we're attracted to, and Juno over here, what we can commit to. It's an energy of needing to give ourselves the space for some exploration and to really, not lay all put all of our eggs in one basket just because we're creatures of clarity. Looking at UK Moon. I am not exempt from this energy. Um, not put all of our eggs in one basket, but instead give ourselves the opportunity to just say, okay, let me just see what this could be about, and how this can unfold. Because there can be a feeling of being caught between starting your own business and committing more to this, getting in deeper with this full-time job that you've got, caught between going back to school, and taking this promotion that you've gotten, when going back to school would cost you money, but then make you more money in the long run. But there's a promotion that's going to give you more money right now. It's like, oh, which one do I do? Right? A caught between, this house that, I've paid for, but isn't in a place that I want to live, and this city that calls to me that, has some of my friends in it, but I'd basically have to kind of start all over again. Caught between two people, two locations, two jobs, two ways of being. There's this caught between energy going on here. That this particular full moon in Pisces is just bringing to the surface for people. And so the all there is to do with this is understand that this is part of a much larger season of transition for all of us in some place in life as we are recovering from the pandemic and moving ourselves fully into the next chapter of our lives. Okay. So, like I said, the beautiful thing about this is that if we can give ourselves the time to explore this, we're going to be in great shape, because all of the information that we need to make informed decisions is not on the table yet. I promise you, there's more information coming to the surface as we hit these November eclipses and we hit that final Mercury retrograde. However you feel about it now, you may not feel this way about it in the months to come. If these are newer decisions, if these are decisions that have been on pause since last year and they're only just now coming into execution, this is kind of a gentle exit into your next chapter, giving you the opportunity to take it slow as you move into how this next chapter is shaped. For those of you for whom this has been a decision that's been a long time in coming, it's unlikely you'll go back and forth. It's more likely that you will simply be a little bit back and forth about not staying or going, but more so how to exit or transform the circumstance that you're wanting or needing to transform. But for those of you for whom this is a new decision that's just coming up with this full moon, take your time before hauling completely into a brand new thing. because not all the info is on the table yet. The eclipses will provide more. And the eclipses, for those of you who've had a long term decision that has been like simmering and brewing for a while and it's just coming into execution now, the eclipses are going to solidify precisely why this decision is the right decision for you and get you into a place of knowing, okay, this is going to be the correct way to move into the next chapter. So that's the way I'm framing this for all of us. For all of you out there who are my, my kinfolk and being creatures of clarity, all I can say is hang in there, take some deep breaths, do some yoga, practice flexibility with yourself and with the people around you, and keep conversations open and flowing as opposed to closing or shutting down. Do what you can to build your bandwidth for being comfortable in the uncomfortable unknown at this time, because that will actually allow you a degree of mastery. There are, in fact, times to do nothing. And this is one of them, to just allow things to unfold and see, for those of you who are taking new decisions at this time. So, beloveds, thank you so much for all your likes, subscribes, and shares. Where you are called to join Q&A with Kay, you are certainly invited. The link will be below this video. Do get it in the next 24 hours because it will stop being on sale. And I want to make sure that if this is something you want to take advantage of to support you digging into clarity, especially with this divine mirrors information, I think you're going to find that it's extraordinarily useful in creating some of the clarity that you need at this time. Link is below this video. And of course, as always, if you'd like to book some time in my calendar to talk about all of this one-on-one, you absolutely can. It'd be my pleasure to chat with you. All right, take great care and bye for now.